Yeah.
Occasionally.
Okay, so this is something. Second. Warning. Be 10-second warning. 5-second warning.
Right.
Okay, it is 4:30. I'll call the meeting to order and I'll acknowledge that the District of Tofino operates in the territory of local nation Tla-o-qui-aht. Notice to attendees that the meeting is being video recorded and published on the District of Tofino's YouTube channel. Notice to virtual attendees to sign up for public comment and question period using the Q&A function Zoom. To register, participants are required to enter their full name, residential address, and the agenda item they wish to speak to. Through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, we'll move to section 15 of the District of Tofino meeting procedure bylaw number 1229/2016 is amended. The March 31, 2026 regular meeting will be electronically via Zoom and live broadcasting on the District of Tofino's YouTube channel. That the facility provided for the public to watch and hear the meeting be located at Lakewood Sound Theatre, 380 Campbell Street, BC. Seeing no objection, motion carried. Also, through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, I move that the March 31, 2026 regular council agenda be adopted. Seeing no objections, motion carried. I'm moving through the consent agenda. Just clarify here. Hold on a second. Just a clarification here, we're going right down to 4.8.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right. Better than enough. Got it. Okay, moving right down. Make sure on the consent agenda, moving right down to item 4.8. If there are no objections, I'll move that items 4.1 to 4.7 of the consent agenda on the regular council meeting held March 31st, 2026 be approved and received. Seeing no objection, the motion is carried. Mayor's report. First, I would just like to extend on behalf of council and staff, the entire District team, our deep condolences for the TFN community and nation on the sudden loss of their leadership. Member, Tourism Tofino AGM was great. It was a pleasure to attend on behalf of the district. It was wonderful to be able to address such a wonderful business community. And it was also a pleasure to attend the Pacific Rim Fishing Game banquet that just happened. It was a fabulous banquet. And again, it was amazing to see the just unbelievable generosity of our business community and our locals. We provided so many prizes for the attendees. It just is just astounding what our little community can produce when we come together. We have a special award from the council to Nicole Cutler. And she's not here. I'm going to pretend she's here. I'm going to read out some stuff for Nicole. For 20 years of dedicated service, district employee, Nicole Cutler. And tonight it's a pleasure to recognize a long-serving member of the district team whose dedication and professionalism has made and continues to make a meaningful impact on our community. Nicole Cutler, 20 years of service. Nicole joined the district on April 6, 2006. And over the years has served as accounting assistant, accounting supervisor, and now as senior accounting clerk. For Throughout her time with the district, Nicole has consistently gone above and beyond her role. She is known for her steady and thoughtful approach to her work and for her leadership and expertise that she brings to her colleagues each day. Nicole has played an important role in shaping processes and procedures within the Financial Service Department, and she remains a trusted source of knowledge, particularly during times of change. Her colleagues value her not only for her technical expertise, but also for her reliability and the consistency she brings to the organization. On behalf of the council, staff, and the residents of Tofino, thank you, Nicole, for your 20 years of dedicated service. So she's unable to be here, but it's an honor to at least show everybody what she's going to get and celebrate her. And so what I will do is we'll just take this and let's bring it over here. Maybe we can. Okay, moving on. We have no delegations. We're moving on to correspondence. 9.1 correspondence from Town of View Royal regarding judicial review coalition.
His public comment on agenda items was missed. Apologies.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Public comment on agenda. It's okay. You know what? It's because I kind of wrote over it. So just let me clear my eyes. Oh, yes. Okay. Public comment on agenda items. What have we got?
Thank you, Mayor Law. I will now make an open call for comments. Sign up on the call sheet. For those in the gallery who wish to speak, please raise your hand. If there is anyone attending online via Zoom that would like to make a comment, you can do so now using the Q&A function. For making a comment, you'll need to state your name, your address, and the agenda item you're speaking to. I will now do a call. Calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times. There are no comments at this.
Okay. Takes a team to run a meeting. Okay, no delegations. Moving on again to correspondence. 9.1. We have a correspondence from Town of View Royal regarding judicial review coalition update for provincial housing legislation. Any comments from council? All right, 9.2. Correspondence from Village of Scoop regarding resolution submissions to North Central Local Government Association and Union of British Columbia Municipalities. Any comments from council? Correspondence from Island Coastal Economic Trust regarding request for council letter of support to modernize the trust. Councilor Scheer.
Yeah, thank you.
Through the chair.
This was a letter that has come forward. There was a report that was issued in terms of the, in essence, reconstruction of ICE-T to align it a little more with the objectives and goals. So this was, there is a draft letter of support, and I think it would be valuable to send that letter. I think the reconstruction of ICE-T as an economic development arm has been incredibly supportive and many projects across the island. And I'll look to council to see if the draft letter is pretty straightforward. Council.
I have a comment on this.
Okay.
I am on the ICE-T in this.
I thought so. Yes. Yeah. So okay. I'll defer to Mayor Law.
Chair. Okay. Yeah. So I do sit on the North Island Central Coast Regional Advisory Committee with ICE-T. It has gone through significant changes and is certainly in need of refinancing for the government. So that's what we have before us is a request for that official letter. And I do have a draft motion, but I will open it up to the council for any questions, more comments. Okay. And I must say that this region and many communities around have been supported by ICE-T grants, and they do wonderful work and help everything from person communities build businesses, campsites, you name it, they do it. So it's a wonderful service, and hope to see it continue and be fully funded by the provincial government, as other trusts are throughout the province. So the motion I have in front of us is that staff be authorized to send a letter to the Minister of Jobs and Economic Growth supporting the advancement of legislation to modernize the Island Coastal Economic Trust as per the template provided by ICE-T as included in the March 31st, 2026 council meeting agenda package under correspondence. Seconded. Seconded by Councillor Steer. All in favor? Opposed, motion. All right, moving on to presentations and reports. We have Council Grant Standing Committee verbal report from Community Services.
Mayor Council, we don't have a presentation at all for you today, just a quick verbal report. A call for the 2026 council grants was released mid-January and closed mid-February. In previous years, council has struck a standing committee of council to adjudicate the grants and make a recommendation back to council. And so should you wish to proceed with that same process, we would just need the mayor to strike that standing committee. And so the recommendation is within your package here this evening, but it does read that council received the mayor's appointment of three councillors and one staff member to the council grant standing committee to consider grant award recommendations for the 2026 council grants. Regular council meeting.
Super. All right, council. I know we'll have the chance to sit on this. Who would like to do it this year? All right, Councillor Thomas. Anybody else? Anderson has been on a couple times. Who else wants to sit on this committee?
Councillor Master usually does,
Yeah.
but he's not here, so.
So we
I
can
think-
pick on him.
Okay,
And you?
you could, yeah, Counselor McMaster, Counselor Sloan.
Oh, I don't have to be on.
You want to be on it? Let's
I
put you
can,
on it.
yeah. sure.
No, it's up to you. Councillor Anderson, would you like to, or would we like to give it to Councillor McMaster? You're here. He's not.
I could do.
All right. Well, without further ado, I'll move from the chair that council receive the mayor's appointments. Councillor Sawyer, Councillor Thomas, and Councillor Anderson, and one staff member to the council grants standing committee to consider grant award recommendations for 2026 council grants at the next regular council meeting. Councillor Thomas is second. All in favor? None opposed, motion is carried. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have item 10.2, temporary use permit, 699 Industrial Way. What?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Since the council chambers. So I'm here to present a temporary use permit for the property at 699 Industrial Way.
Great to see you here, Mr. Shorthall.
Okay.
Nice to see you out there.
See everybody else. Sure, I'm planner one. I'm here to present a temporary use permit for 699 Industrial Way. So it's been a while since temporary use permit has came to council. So just an overview of temporary use permits at a higher level. So a temporary use permit is something to allow a permission that isn't ordinarily granted by the zoning bylaw. It's regulated by the Local Government Act for section 497. Temporary use permits may be issued anywhere from 1 to 3 years. And the applicant has the option to apply for a renewal. However, applications and renewals are evaluated on a case-by-case basis and evaluated on their own merits. Council holds discretion to issue temporary use permits. And temporary use permits are just that, they're temporary in nature and not indication of a long-term land use, meaning it does not affect zoning. Zoning stays in effect beyond the temporary use permit itself. So looking at temporary use permits from our zoning bylaw or from our official community plan. So we have a temporary use permit policy established within the OCP that provides some avenues for TUPs to exist. They are short-term land use opportunities, diversification of the economy, innovation, and in some cases, they are often a bridge to a permanent change of use, although that's a little bit less common. For this application in particular, staff have evaluated it as a short-term land use opportunity on a currently undeveloped lot. Clicker is not working. Click. Thanks. So the subject property is 699 Industrial. It's right on the corner of Industrial Way and Pacific Rim Highway. It's currently zoned M1, Industrial Parkland. Current use is storage, and it's within the village containment boundary. The land use designation is Industrial Way, and this site is just over half an acre at 0.58. There is a riparian development permit area that is in the southeast corner of the lot. However, when the applicant had a qualified environmental professional on site, they determined that there is no riparian features present. There's also a covenant of title to protect the vegetation buffer that runs alongside the Pacific Rim Highway. The application itself, so we received 2 applications, a development permit and a temporary use permit in July 2024. The applicant is seeking a maximum of 6 fully serviced gravel RV pads. This is intended to be used for seasonal workforce accommodation, and it's intended to house the applicant's workforce. These conditions are the seasonal workforce worker accommodation is established under certain conditions attached as Appendix 2 to the actual temporary use permit itself, and the applicant is seeking a 3-year term. So some of the highlights of this application, it is consistent with our TUP policy in terms that it's short-term and flexible land use. The Industrial Way policy has some language around allowing limited staff housing within the industrial land designation. So that is, as you can see on the presentation here, it also has a direct link to supporting local business and also responds to a housing need within our community. Then some of the other key considerations, I know water is a important topic at the moment. So from discussions internally, it's expected to have a low demand on the municipal water supply. And then also the water that we will draw from is previously allocated water for long-term projects that have not yet come online and won't do for a number of years. Since limits to growth has been repealed and water is being managed internally across community services and infrastructure and public works. So both of our housing needs reports, the 2021 and also the interim report, speaks to a gap in workforce housing. This application seeks to not provide a long-term solution for that, but a short-term solution to a long-term problem. In terms of compatibility, there is no permanent structures currently on site, and there's none proposed to be on site. There's no building permits in the queue or anything of the sorts. There will be screening requirements that are attached as conditions to the temporary use permit. That covenant is being retained, which acts as a natural buffer to the highway and also industrial way. And then also staff hold the ability to put some additional conditions on the permit in terms of screening if we find that what is being done isn't sufficient. And staff have evaluated this or determined the rationale for supporting this application in the temporary use nature. So the fact that it's small scale, it's temporary, and this doesn't preclude future industrial development. So the zoning doesn't change on a long-term basis or anything of the sorts. In terms of community engagement, so per the Local Government Act, we're required to do a number of things. One of those, some of those are public notices, so hand delivered and mailed within 60 meters of the subject property. Ads featured in 2 consecutive issues of the Westerly newspaper that happened previously earlier this month. And staff have received no letters either in support or in opposition from the public regarding this application. That brings me to my recommendation for today.
Super, thank you. Questions for Mr. Shorthall from council? Councillor Steer.
Yeah, thank
you through the chair.
Very much supportive of this particular TUP application. I just had one quick question around I was looking at the site map in terms of the location of the trailers, and I'm just wondering, has it been referred to our fire department, our fire chief, just to look in terms of fire separations, and of course, fire is one of the main safety considerations for that. And I'm just wondering if that has been brought forward.
Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Steer. It has not been referred to the fire department in previous conversations in terms of size and requirements for access. There will be a 6-meter 20 wide access to the property and no obstructions within immediate vicinity of the impermeable lot. However, I can absolutely refer this to the fire department and get further clarification. And the applicant is also open to reconfiguring site plan as needed.
Thank you.
My question was, it says in the report, for seasonal use, will that be limited to seasonal, or could somebody stay there for a longer period?
Somebody can stay there for the amount of time that the temporary use permit is issued. When seasonal is used, it's intended to accommodate his workforce that come out here seasonally. Within some of the conditions of the permit outlines that the tenants must be employed within the District of Tofino or surrounding areas, being Ucluelet, Tla-o-qui-aht, Housing Beyond, so within the West Coast, but also there's condition around minimum stay being 30 days. So that's to mitigate any kind of short-term rentals or anything of the sorts.
Any other comments, questions from council? Comments from council? Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a couple of comments. I thought that this was a great way to, legalize some of the RVs maybe around town. I think that this is a great way to incentivize people to bring their RVs into. I really like how the temporary use permit can align with some of the other future developments that doesn't actually impact our current water supply, because those places aren't developed yet. So I thought that was a really good idea.
Councillor Henson?
Yeah, I'm in support. I'm also in favor of using basically vacant lands, especially if they already have a water allocation, in a temporary way to provide some form of accommodation.
Mr. Sork?
Yeah, my only comments are obviously this lot's already cleared, and that's always a bonus, as well as pointed out by Councillor Sullivan that this wouldn't impact other water development. So in favor of it.
I'm very much in favor. I think it's great. I do note that so many other properties have illegal trailers being lived in it. So I'm thankful that Mr. Watts comes forward and Councillor Steer.
Yeah, no, I'm very much in support. Councillor Thomas doesn't. I'm willing to read the recommendation.
We'll just let Councillor Thomas.
Thumbs up.
And then we'll ask for the recommendation read. We're going to go around.
Thumbs up.
Oh, she thumbs it. Okay.
Yeah, it's got.
Okay, Councillor Steer, go ahead.
Staff be authorized to issue the temporary use permit TUP 0126 attaches appendix 1 of the staff report titled Temporary Use Permit 699 Industrial Way. Watts dated March 31st, 2026 for a period of 3 years to permit seasonal residential use of 6 recreational vehicles.
Okay. Oh, tie. Okay, Councillor Anderson seconded. All in favor? None opposed, motion carried. 10.3 District of Tofino zoning amendment bylaw. First away, first and second reading.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're just using a little ways up the street here to 691 Industrial. So this is coming towards you, or sorry, this is coming before you today for first and second reading. The rationale is that there was very little response from referrals or comments from public, so there's very little change from the initial presentation of seeds. So this might just be a little bit of a refresher presentation. So just going back to the proposal, they are seeking a permanent change of use, which is moving away from the temporary use permit as they allowing them to operate the exterior patio service areas. So it's for example, they're moving from a temporary nature, using this as a tool to bridge to a permanent change of use into permanent service areas for the exterior patios in the front and rear of the property. So for those who have not been there, this is the front patio and then the rear patio. As you can see, it includes screening that was included as part of the TUP condition initially. The site layout, so just from a bird's eye view, the north end there, that's the rear as well as the small area in the front. And so if we're looking to the ancillary uses, the 10% cap that we discussed earlier does incorporate all ancillary uses that are currently occupied or are currently occurring on site. So there are three amendments, three fundamental pieces to this zoning amendment. The first being the redefinition of accessory lounge, which currently exists within the zoning bylaw. So this is a complete change. It sort of elaborates on the primary or the initial accessory lounge definition that was created for this zone. And won't read it out for you, but there it is. It's just a reminder. The second piece is to replace the brewery lounge with the accessory lounge definition that is currently applied to the property. And so we are applying this as a site-specific condition within the M zone. And then the third is that site-specific conditional limit on the ancillary use of the 10% cap. Again, I won't read that out loud, but just there as a reminder. So high-level highlights, this proposal does meet the land use and growth objectives for within the OCP, as well as aligns with the areas of specific policy for the industrial way land use designation. It supports economic viability and small business, formalizes this permanent change of use. As I mentioned, we're shifting from that TUP term into a permanent change of use. There's no history as of today of complaints for the use or on the subject property. And there is no building or construction or further development that is going to result from this change. Updates from the last presentation, there was some commentary on the inclusion of the municipal alcohol strategy as well as some accessibility elements. So in consultation with the owner, they provided a summary breakdown of how their business operations are in alignment with a lot of the policies, the frameworks that we have in place currently. Short of having a policy that is specific to private premises, the applicant has done their best to sort of demonstrate how they're meeting the objectives on the community level. As I mentioned, there's no comments or concerns received from the public notification. They had a sign erected on property, so there was opportunity for people to provide comment outside of the 60-meter buffer that received the hand-delivered and mailed notifications. This also went out to referral to all relevant agencies, which included Ministry of Transportation and Transit, Tofino Fire, as well as internal departments, Island Health, and there was no comments or concerns addressed or brought to my attention at that time. So bringing to the recommendation today to move through first and second reading, considering there's no fundamental changes from the first permission to proceed, but happy to address any questions or concerns this time.
Great. Okay, we're going to go for council questions first before we go to comments if there are any. Councilor Steer?
Yeah, just a quick question. Thank you for the report, and then I'll have a comment later. I was just a little confusion, and I just for clarification, in the zoning regulation centers on floor area, not seat count, if I remember correctly. And I was a little confused because I couldn't remember if municipalities, if we had a little bit of a say in that conversation, but I'm just wondering, then the current seat maximum is 70. Does the change in from brewery to accessory lounge, does that change the maximum amount of seating that's available based on that? And it was just, I couldn't figure it out. So I thought I'd ask someone who might.
Thank you for the question through the chair. So there is a graph within the report that sort of identifies a lot of the sort of challenges with the differing regulatory authorities. So we've got occupant load, we've got capacity, there's conflicting business licensing or business licensing parameters. This will result in sort of clarifying that regulation, but it could very well amount to increase in seats. It's, I think from a perspective of a land use regulation, we've sort of taken the stance that because the occupant load is founded in fire safety and sort of the overall cap on the space, that was the simplest and most straightforward sort of parameter to work with. I couldn't find any evidence that 70-person seat was rooted in initially what I believe is parking, although I couldn't find any sort of real concrete sort of analysis that determined that number specifically. And I think that it came from maybe a consultation between council and the applicant at that time and came to an agreement that 70 seats was appropriate. And so this could shift the number of seats that they have within the establishment. But as it stands now, they could currently have 70 seats, but multiple people standing. So it's a bit of a gray area for service within the lounge. They're not proposing any more seats. I can speak to that, but they could theoretically have
The potential exists to add further seating capacity.
That's correct, but they're not currently they're capped at about the 10% for the ancillary use. So the actual space for the lounge would be limited.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Any questions for clarity down the table? For clarity? Seeing none, I have none. Thank you for the report. I think there's going to be some comments, so you want to vacate so you hot seat, but we will get the motion back up on screen there. Any comments? Comments from council? No comments. Councillor Steer.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, and I did want to speak and direct to staff and the applicant. I thought that was the letter that was written to staff and for the request really could serve as a model for many of the conversations that we're having around the community alcohol strategy. I thought they laid out a very clear format and aligning with the principles within our municipal alcohol strategy policy that really went above and beyond what most responsible servers do. So I really thought it was an excellent model. And I was going to recommend, if possible, that we reach out to include them in our consultations to the community alcohol strategy, because it was I was really impressed by the amount of work that they have put in and very thoughtful work that they have put into this.
Other comments from council? Seeing none? I thought it was a great, good proposal, fully supportive. So would we like to have the councillor read the motion? I don't see it up there. I think somebody's got it in front of them. Go ahead, councillor.
I move that District of Tofino zoning amendment bylaw number 1358 2026 be read at first and second.
Second by councillor Solomon. All in favor? Unopposed, motion is carried. Moving on to 10.4 District of Tofino zoning amendment, 740 Campbell Street. We do have a presentation from Mr. Welsh.
Evening, Mayor and Council, getting most of the planning department tonight. Tonight, I'm going to request permission to proceed with amending the OCP and zoning bylaw to facilitate a housing development, multi-unit residential building in partnership with THC at 740 Campbell. So the district owns a few properties that are well suited, maybe not as well suited as this one, to accommodate the next big affordable housing project for the community. To achieve this, however, we need to amend 2 of our bylaws. So here's the subject property, that's 740 Campbell. currently sits within the Peninsula land use designation. It has our RA1 zoning, which is quite rural, low density, and it sits just outside the village containment area, which is seen here as a heavy dark line. So this report that you've read is intended to introduce the proposal, broadly outline possible concerns and benefits, and determine whether or not you're interested in moving the proposal forward. Next would come first reading of the associated OCP amendment to change the land use designation for this parcel. And then following the amending of the OCP would come amending the zoning bylaw. There's a possibility of running these processes somewhat concurrent, however, to help expedite the process. However, the OCP amendment would need to be adopted first. So the site's situated between district-owned water infrastructure to the north and private commercial structures to the south. Cross Campbell Street to the west is a steep slope that moves upward with forested lands and recently planned Woodsmere residential development. On site is an access drive used to maintain the service of the Bay Street Pump House, just to the north. And much of the site is relatively flat before sloping down dramatically close to the shore. And the views are quite lovely and unobstructed across Browning Passage to Mears Island. Do not have a photo of. So to summarize the property in question, currently zoned for residential, but low density acreage just outside the village containment boundary. Site's approximately 1 acre in size. We're looking to change its land use designation from peninsula to future homes. It does sit within 2 development permit areas, wildlife habitat, steep slopes. And we're looking to amend its zoning from AR1 to become a comprehensive development zone to accommodate a multi-unit, multi-family residential project. A bit of background, these amendments are initiated by staff as part of the requirements of a project that's funded by the Housing Accelerator Fund from the federal government. Initiative 3 of this project outlines a plan for the district to work with THC to build non-market multifamily housing projects on district-owned and other community land through an expedited approval process. So the goal here really is to leverage district-owned assets to increase the supply of below-market housing targeted at our local workforce. So the determination of this site arose from a collaborative and strategic review of 5 of our land holdings. This was undertaken to prioritize sites for development based on the potential for expedient proposal or approvals, lower construction costs, and geography to contribute to a complete and climate resilient community vision. The THC-led feasibility studies were received by council at the July 29th, 2025 committee full meeting. 740 Campbell, the site in question, was ranked #1 across all the sites. And so here's the preferred sketch from the feasibility study. Determining feasibility was driven primarily by the following principles: maximizing density with an appropriate mix of units, utilizing the BC housing unit areas as a basis for design, consider volumetric modular construction, and to stack units to maximize building efficiency and structural simplicity, avoid underground parking and complex grading, and then assume a 1-to-1 parking to unit ratio is the minimum desired possible. This sketch proposed 40 stacked flats. However, the exact proposed density is still under consideration and will be brought forward at first reading. So I'm going to read a few key considerations regarding the OCP amendment and then regarding the zoning bylaw. So the OCP amendment would require to redesignate the site from peninsula to future homes to enable multi-unit housing. It would advance council's housing objectives by delivering non-market workforce housing on district land. It does sit outside the village containment area, just outside. So it would require explicit policy justification to move forward. It does support compact growth by using service land adjacent to existing development and transit corridors. There's really a strong alignment with active transportation considering its location. Infrastructure capacity is a constraint as throughout the district, particularly around water supply, and that's going to need to be resolved before occupancy. And then the scale and character might propose a bit of a sensitive area because this development does exceed typical Campbell Street development. Some cases we do have some precedent examples down the road, so it's not entirely new. Bringing us to zoning. Currently, the RA1 zoning prohibits the density required for this development. A CD zone would be proposed to accommodate this density and as well as its form. And we need a bit of flexibility at this point in time because currently the architects and the consultants are working to try and maximize unit count, but that a lot goes into that regarding servicing constraints as well as accommodating district access to infrastructure, things as such. We're underway. That process is underway currently. And then I mentioned the parking assumption would definitely directly influence the density and site layout. I mentioned that water availability would be an issue, as would fire flow, drainage, and stormwater. All of these things would be looked at regarding the zoning amendment. And then development permit areas 8 and 10 are relevant here. And so there'd be reports required to prove out this development in context with those. And then a public hearing, if the OCP is amended, public hearing will be waived, assuming that this would be in line, which it would be with the OCP. There we go. So regarding community engagement, you can consider it as referrals, public hearing, and public notice. Referrals would be initiated prior to first reading. Public hearing would be required for the OCP, but not the zoning bylaw amendment. And then we'd follow our traditional pathways for giving notice to adjacent properties as well as the entire community. So that brings me to options for recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Welsh. So we're going to open up for questions. So we're going to open to council for questions, and I do have a little comment about the density and as I sit on the THC board, and if Councillor McMaster was here, I'm sure he would speak to it as he's the chair. But we're going to go around for questions first. Any questions for the presentation? None. So great. Just a comment from me then. Okay, and sir, thank you, Mr. Welsh, and just as an update from council, the current proposal is 20 or 21 units. Some restrictions on height due to the pro forma and fire safety and stuff like that. So that's THC is actively looking at the options as well as the mix of unit types. I know that Mr. Welsh has commented it's a workforce housing, which I think you shouldn't be confused with non-residential. There's certainly a residential component, and also the units that are being discussed by THC do allow for children and other people as well who don't necessarily work. So that's my comments. So I think it's it's a fantastic project. Very supportive. Looking to council for comments. Councillor Steer.
Yeah, thank
Then
you.
Councillor Thomas.
Thank you through the chair. Your comments were one of the ones that I had around density, very much in support of this project. I just had one comment and somewhat of a question, but I think more at this stage is more a comment around within the report. One of the challenges that I find with in terms of tsunami and where we put developments in terms of that potential risk, and in the report, it refers to, it is within the local tsunami hazard zone. In the report, it makes reference to providing a council a level of competence that such risks have been adequately addressed prior to the issuance of any approval. And I'm hoping that I was going to ask here at time, this is in the appropriate time, but to be assured that this is something that I think will be really important for us to have great clarity on, because when we are in these types of areas where we know that there is a perceived risk, it could be 300 years from now, it could be tomorrow. that we're well aware of that, and that I'm curious to see how they will be able to address that level of confidence for that particular piece of land.
That's one of the questions. So Mr. Wells, you're up in the.
I didn't know if it was the
gallery,
right time, but-
And I'm sure there's a tsunami risk assessment in that inundation zone. So just a quick comment from you, from the gallery.
Through the chair, this is a forever evolving topic when it comes to how we look at development, how we consider approving it, and from the perspective of being a member of this community, being a member of this organization, a lot of our confidence in supporting one thing over another, it does come down to a lot of things that aren't within the planning purview. So what are we doing about updating our maps? Well, that's currently underway. We're adding more tsunami sirens. We are constantly having drills. Like, there are things associated with preparedness that are largely the most important piece around this. A local tsunami could be a big one, right? And could impact pretty much the entire community. So that needs to be considered, right? So I think that those things all come into play when we think about this. The other piece that's really important from a multi-unit structure is, what does the manager of that building do towards tenants, towards residents? We know that a lot of the resorts have their own evacuation plans, have their own preparedness plans. So we'd be looking to ensure that type of thing was in place as well for that building, for all the residents there, so they were all in line and understood the best way to act if something like that happened. I do know that from a structural perspective, that's also being considered. Obviously, this would be seismically appropriate. It's going to hit the highest standards possible. I know that that's what the architects and team is looking at. So hopefully that answers some of your question. Thank you.
Councillor Thomas?
My comment is not necessarily to do with the amendments. I'm fully in support of the amendments here, but I'm hoping, after hearing that density is being looked at and architects are working on designs in that, I would like to hope that a comment can be brought back to THC that maybe we could look to be leaders in some of our water innovation. I know we're leaning really hard on the private builders to do that, but I'd like to see some water innovation included in some of our public housing projects.
Okay. I can actually bring that back to Peter. Sure.
Yeah, thanks. It's just a comment on the two DPAs that were identified for this property. So one of them being wildlife habitat, and I know that's a concern to many people, but I was happy to see within the report that, you know, development's going to be kept to the already cleared areas, and that there will be specialists brought in to look at the site and identify features and habitats that could be impacted. So I know it's a concern to a lot of people in town, but it's something that is being looked at.
Sure. Then I actually have a question. I have a question for you, Mr. Welch. I forgot to ask. So I'm going to ask you now to get more questions in the gallery, and then you get at the podium. But it was to do with the beach, because I know that we had chatted as a council that could be a park like beach, public access to that for kayak launching, et cetera, et cetera. Has that been discussed in the CD zoning backroom discussions right now?
Yes, it's been discussed to the extent that, thank you for the question. It's been discussed to the extent that we intend to keep it open, keep the access open, not to change that. Design and consideration of how the access takes place, what is down there for the public is largely TBD. That's going to come later when design is a bit further along. Right now, we're focused on the building. We do know that we want to retain that for public access. We do know that it would be challenging, however, though, to provide parking up above for both tenants or owners, however this plays out, as well as guests to the parklet down below. There just isn't enough capacity for that. So one could envision that it's perhaps a drop off, or perhaps there's lockups for canoes and kayaks. Perhaps there's a lot of options where we could provide access or gear storage that does not necessarily require a great deal of parking. But we do see it as a really important asset. There aren't many sort of human powered boat launch areas in the district, and we want to capitalize on that and retain it.
Super, and it's connected to the map, so you don't have to have a car to get there.
Right.
Love it. Great. Thanks for that. Okay. And just a question, I had another question. There was no, because originally early on, we had briefly discussed amalgamating 720 and 740 and sort of reconfiguring the whole thing, and that's been discussed. Yeah. Okay. Just thought
720 would be retained for district access and water infrastructure.
future, yeah. All right, any other comments? I'm really excited about this project. I think it's great. I think it's a great project. It's good use of the land. I think it was a good move from staff and from council to get that piece in the way they did. And I look forward to seeing this move ahead. So any other questions, comments?
Or just like Councillor Thomas's recommendation. It's, I think that's a good idea. Be leaders on that.
Okay. The only thing is, I mean, it's great, but the costs, just so people know, like the part of the thing is the pro forma. And if things, the square footage gets extremely difficult to manage, and then it stalls the project. So, we'll bring it back for 100% for sure and see what they can do with it. But to get it built, it's going to take some pendangling as it is. So.
It would be nice if, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
But it would be nice if some of the funding that we leaned on in the future becomes more climate forward in thinking, where we think about some of the grants or funding that we get from upper levels of government or different organizations, that maybe in the future some of their stuff will be guidelined or set for projects like that, as we all need to.
Yeah, 100%. That's a good thing. I'm gonna write it down and I'll definitely bring it up. Actually, was that Tiana's? On staff to bring that up as well. Great. Who would like to read this recommendation? Councillor Anderson.
I'll move that staff be authorized to proceed with official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment application for 740 M Street.
Second by Councillor Steer. All in favor? None opposed. Motion's carried. 10.5 library project. Kirkland. We'll take a little break.
So today I'll provide an update on the library project, including a memorandum of understanding with the Vancouver Island Regional Library, and an overview of the planned procurement approach. This report will seek council's endorsement of the MOU, the memorandum of understanding for collaborative planning and feasibility work to continue, and to confirm next steps as we move forward into the design phase. So throughout 2025, the district worked with the Vancouver Island Regional Library and the Tofino Housing Corporation to explore a combined housing district office and library project behind us at the Main Street site. That work determined that the project was not financially feasible in the proposed form, and council subsequently directed staff to explore an alternative location for the library at the community hall property on TL 114 lands. So since that time, staff and the library team have established a project team and revised the existing memorandum of understanding to reflect this new site and a focused planning approach. So the proposed MOU is non-binding and does not create any financial commitments or limit council's future decision-making authorities. Its purpose is to establish a clear collaborative framework that sets out how the district and the library team will work together during the early planning and feasibility works. At a high level, the district would be leading all of the site-related planning and base or foundational building considerations, while the library team would work on library services needs and interior fit outs or tenant improvements to the project. This ensures responsibilities are clear while still allowing flexibility as design work progresses. Through this work, staff will also be exploring dual use space opportunities to incorporate into the design, to incorporate flexible multi-function rooms that can support both the library and broader community programming, which will optimize the level of service that the proposed facility can offer outside of traditional library uses. The library project also presents an opportunity to create purpose-built office space that would allow the district to relocate staff that are currently operating out of the second floor of the fire hall, which is deemed for replacement in the short term, which will improve staff service delivery, provide opportunities for public-facing access to those staff, and improve the staff safe working conditions. In terms of project delivery, staff are proposing an approach that generally mirrors the successful model used on the wastewater treatment plant project. Specifically, we would be engaging both a prime design consultant and a construction manager early through a competitive process. This allows cost, constructability, and scheduling considerations to be integrated alongside the design as it develops, rather than after the fact. The construction manager, as mentioned in the report, would be engaged under a CCDC 5B construction management contract, which is a construction management at risk. So there's a stake in the game for the construction manager through that process. Under this contract model, the construction manager provides ongoing cost estimates, constructability reviews, and budget validation as the design progresses. Importantly, this approach does include a clear off-ramp being an out for the owner. So if the project scope cannot be aligned with the budget, or if council is not satisfied with the proposed cost or risk profile, the district can choose not to proceed with construction with no obligation to enter into a stipulated fixed fee contract. So its terms are negotiated prior to entering into a contract with the construction manager. Only once a design is sufficiently developed and a construction price is validated would staff return to council to seek approval to transition into the next phase, which would be construction and a fixed fee contract arrangement with a builder. So just quickly to go over proposed location, it's at the community hall site, which provides strong community integration, enhancing that hub and minimizes the site complexities. It's already relatively cleared. The library entrance would be located adjacent to the community hall entrance, reinforcing that community focused hub that I just mentioned. And the district access would be orientated off of Arnett Road, or the access way into the community hall or into the DL114 area there. And this part of the project would include paving Arnett Road up to the community hall to improve accessibility, functionality of that area. The site requires minimal preparation, as I just mentioned, and provides flexibility to accommodate the library within the space and integrate the design into a potential future recreation design, which has already been completed to a certain degree. So this complements what work has already been done. And if council approves the recommendation, staff would execute the memorandum of understanding with the library, the regional library, and proceed with a competitive request for proposal process to engage a prime design consultant and a construction manager. Once early design work is underway, staff and the Vancouver Island Regional Library team would engage the community through an open house to gather feedback and incorporate it into the design where feasible. And a Talk to Tofino page would also be launched to provide the public with a project overview timeline, key milestones. Project. With that, I'll leave the recommendation on the screen and open up the floor for questions and comments.
Super, excellent project. Thank you. To open it up with questions. Questions first? Any questions?
Just a question, if I may, through the chair. Thank you once again. Yeah, another great project that we're being brought forward. And I think that procurement model that worked well for the wastewater treatment plant and that following the similar model, I think is going to be a great save money again, hopefully. Two questions. One, that was the first time I saw this site location. I don't believe it was in the report. And I was just wondering, first question, if when you're looking at that site in terms of configuration of this building, potential building, was any other positioning proposed for that, or was this the one that just came right off the mark?
Through the chair, when we look at this originally, this looks like for ease of construction and, like I mentioned, like kind of functionality with interfacing the entrances in that one area, and then looking at what previous work has been done with the recreation facility designs, this does look like initially the most suitable location. Yeah, apologies, I did not put that in the report, if that is somewhat of a surprise, and we would be, like, the team would be open to changing that if it was needed, so it's not locked in as the location.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because a couple of different sites on there as a standalone and opposed to integrated, and I see the value of both. So anyways, well, thank you. And if I may, second question. Yeah, and it's in terms of the level of service, and I noted within the report, flexible spaces in the design for the community uses, and you're specific in terms of the ones around district office space. And I'm wondering if, is it restricted just to the District of Tofino, or, for example, in conversations with such as Island Health, for example, so office space being potentially allocated to others as key tenants potentially within that building. Is that something that would be or could be considered?
Through the chair, I think we're open to considering that. I have heard about some conversation about that potential. So I may sway that over to Ms. Atiana, but I think that'd be something we would look at going through the design and the community engagement process.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You don't? Questions, Councilor.
My question is, if this does go forward with being built, is it reasonable to expect that the same staging area, like where the bike park used to be, would probably be used as a staging for construction again? I'm just thinking ahead to, it's being used for parking right now. We'd really like to see that be outdoor space. But also want to be cognizant in the back of my mind if we talk about making that into something and then possibly needing to utilize that space to build this project. So that might be very specific.
I think through the chair, I think if it was, like, are you referring to using that space as like a construction staging area?
Yeah.
So then that would be temporary in nature for the duration of this project. In the event that space was being used on a more permanent basis for something else, then the project team would look at an alternative location for construction staging. Absolutely. That helps to answer your question.
Absolutely.
Super, I had a question, kind of a comment. I wonder about the comments about getting community feedback in an open house and then using that where feasible. And I wonder about if it would be better to sort of canvass the community before the initial engineering or architectural designs come out. Just trying to think about getting the community involved sooner than later, rather than asking them after it's 90% complete or 80% complete and saying sorry, we're not going to do that. So that kind of thing. I wonder if that's a possibility, or how do you think about that?
Fantastic question. Through the chair, we would be involving the community very early on in the design process. So if there was feedback that was received, that would be able to be incorporated very early, whether it be with the actual location of the building or any other integral components of it, whether it's the the size or the footprint of it or some of. So I think that's a very good comment or a question that I will take away, and we would work with the successful proponent to find an appropriate time to engage the community before we're too far down the line. We're sort of presenting, oh, this is what we're doing, sort of thing.
Councillor, Ms. Etienne.
Thank you. So this is, quite new for us. We haven't built a new municipal facility in quite some time. Council will be establishing service levels of the facility, keeping in mind that there is the library component. We'll be working with the library as well. So I sort of foresee this being a bit of an iterative process in that we are a bit confined to the site, that location that we have. If we get feedback from the community wanting a number of uses, we'd be having that discussion with council so you can establish the service level, have a look at the various uses, and we would be sort of working through aspects of it with council. So I think, it would be nice to be able to incorporate all the feedback we get, but that workaround or that wording around where it's feasible is really the restriction on the footprint that we have to work with.
And that site is actually a 2-story site, it's a whole story just to get to grade. So that poses opportunities and challenges. So interesting to see that placement.
Yeah, through the chair, that was a part of looking at that location as a bit of an opportunity to, from a constructability lens, make that easier to build a 2-story structure at that location. And have that lower section, and it wouldn't be as much because it's sloped. The amount of civil works or excavation required would be a lot lower to be able to achieve a two level.
So, and that was actually your ideal with maybe the offices are on the lower level. Okay, I got you. I was looking at that and I was like, it's gonna be quite the stairs to get to that door. But no, you're gonna go so potentially 2 stories, and that's part of that grade. Okay, great, interesting, love it. Also a great project, Councillor.
All right, yeah, just comment on that site proposed is actually one that I think is really good in that we're not losing any more space around recreation areas that will be returned for parking. And, given that there'll be an increased use in that area, losing parking spaces in other areas wouldn't be desirable. So and I know a great concern from the community was then future forest loss to create the library. So even though this is a treed spot, it's planted landscape trees, which are still trees, but they are, they were planted as landscaping. It's not part of the forest. So I see this as kind of the best case scenario.
It's a good point, and I'm going to carry on. Just make one more comment. Is that a lot of kids and families love that little section there, even though it is it's a planted forest, not forest section. It would be good to acknowledge that there are some people that are going to miss that, and maybe come up with a mitigation strategy. So. Councillor Sloman.
Yeah, that was gonna be my comment is, when my kids were young, they always played in that area. And I think it will be a big loss. I think that I can see the benefit of it, and I'll support the recommendation, but I look forward to community input. It is a valuable sunny location that does have trees. But it is utilized as a recreation space right now.
Yeah, no, it is, lots of kids love that spot. And they use it, but the library, it's gonna be a high use, great amenity. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, I'm very much in favor of the co-location with the community hall because it allows for potential for shared entranceways, for shared lounge spaces to extend community hall use into a shared use with library space. There's lots of opportunities there rather than having a standalone. I remember when the community hall was first completed, And the space we're talking about, that's a little piece of forest along, was actually like a hole. It was like a ravine that was filled in. So there's certainly in the design phase, there's opportunities to create maybe even better adjoining outdoor space as well. I just see lots of opportunities that wouldn't be available to us if we shifted it in so that it wasn't not necessarily that exact space, but wasn't adjacent to the community hall. So there, I don't know if there might even be a cantilever design that could go out over that really steep, kind of unusable rocky cliff in front of the hall. The deck is there's a number of great opportunities, I think, in having that co-location. So I think it's a wise choice, but if we are going to move and kind of landscaped areas outside, we should be replacing them.
I envision a shared atrium space with trees inside. Fix everybody's. I love that idea. Okay, great. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Kirkland's been patiently standing there. Seeing none, somebody offer to read the recommendation for us. Councilor Sawyer.
Great, just go back. I move that staff be authorized to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the District of Tofino and the Vancouver Island Regional Library for the purposes of collaborative planning and feasibility work towards a new public library facility at the Tofino Community Hall site, attached as Appendix 1 to the staff report titled Library Project Memorandum of Understanding and Project Update, dated March 31st, 2026.
Councilor Thomas, seconds. Any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to call a 5-minute recess. So we'll come back at 5.
We go.
Okay.
Like not time place. Like your station being there to do with things.
Oh,
Folder. Yeah.
It's in the spot where the some on there, and what they have to be built in. Staff just came up with that. They did
Outside of this.
council.
They planted us.
Go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff will be presenting the tender results for the Main Street Water Main Replacement Project, Phase 1, with hopes to award the contract through council resolution this evening. A little bit of background information. This section of water main located between 4th and 3rd was identified as a capital project in the 2024 Water Master Plan. Key renewal triggers for this project include the asset's capacity and condition. The current main cannot provide adequate fire flow in the corridor. And service connections are typically prone to leaks due to installation practices and material type at time of installation. This is phase 1 of 3 capital projects in the corridor, which will replace the entire water main from 4th all the way until 4th Street with a possible extension, and this will facilitate future public realm improvements within the corridor. So project for phase 1, this scope includes upgrading the existing 150 millimeter water main to a 200 millimeter diameter pipe, primarily for fire flow. It'll also replace all of the service connection components, so fittings and meters and service lines to each property. It'll also replace an existing fire hydrant that is an older model and doesn't quite meet the flow capacity during fire events, so that'll be upgraded. They'll also be installing a air release valve on the high location to kind of bleed out some of the water from the system that reduces some operational impacts that we can rise. And they will replace the 2 clusters of distribution valves at both 4th Street and 3rd Street to be able to close the main down during projects. So the tender results, this project went out for tender in early February. The 4-week tender period resulted in 5 compliant bids, with Napit Industries Limited providing the most competitive bid at just under $350,000. This project is fully funded from the Water Capital and Infrastructure Reserve. The tendered construction works came in below the initial cost estimates for the project. Staff are proposing to reallocate funds into the contingency budget while remaining within the original budget values that were included in 2026 to 2030. As at time of tendering, rough timeline, let's call it, was provided with the submittal. The project is estimated to be completed by the end of May before the summer season. As this contractor, Napit Industries, is already in Tofino working on another project, it's anticipated the project can start without any delays and remain on schedule. Staff will coordinate with the contractor to bridge resources between the 2 projects. Just at different stages of the projects. They may need staff in one location and not another. And that way we can kind of bundle all of the paving opportunities and stuff like that. The next steps, upon council's resolution this evening, the contract will be administered to the contractor. Staff will request a detailed construction schedule. Staff will also begin a series of public communications to ensure that residents and property owners are aware of any project impacts, including planned water main tie-in and other disruptions that may occur throughout the construction phase. Staff will also provide some additional signages in the corridor during construction to alert the public that businesses are open during construction works, so that they don't think it's a non-accessible route for businesses. And with those items kind of covered, contractor will mobilize to site and begin construction. So I'll leave the recommendation on the table, but I'm available for any questions that Mayor and Council may have.
I'm going to open up to council first for questions. Mr. Steer.
Yeah, well, the one question was answered, thank you through the chair. I had the question on the contingency, because when I did the math, it was like 89,000 on the contingency. That's not the 15%. So you've answered that. You're just reallocating that money to the contingency. So great that now the math makes sense. The question, and it was just a general question in terms of the three phases of the project, and I was just curious as to why we're moving it in a phased approach and not doing the whole section in one big push. And I'm wondering if that's just a cost or the disruption of that main street for a lengthy piece of time as to why we wouldn't just push ahead and get the whole thing done right away. And it is a wonderful project. Once again, CNI levy, thank you. Way to go.
Thank you for the question through the chair. I think there's a couple different answers to the question that kind of all contribute. One of them was the phase approach does allow us to keep some of the balances in our reserve funds high, which will give us some general revenue. And then the disruption, if we were to do it all in one phase, I think there's a larger risk there of unknown services and stuff that we may run into, and then just delays in terms of a single contractor being there for a longer extended period of time. So I think it's beneficial to have it be done in three phases. We can learn a lot from phase one to implement into phase two and into phase three.
My question was about leak detection, potential leaks. Do we know if there's any leaks in that section of the water main right now, or is this really to tell?
Yeah, so thank you for the question through the chair. It's never, I shouldn't say never. It's unlikely that the leaks are in the main, because when we have a leak in a main line, we're going to notice that right away. The issue in this corridor is that the service connections are made of a certain material that have pinhole leaks in them. So these arise fairly frequently. The utility operations staff have done repairs on the same service multiple times due to that condition. And if that, hopefully that answers the question, but it's primarily the service connections, not the main itself.
My question was, or my comment, because I'm not the engineer, I'm not in the hole or anything like that, but you know, noting that we're looking for efficiencies and capturing, you know, looking for new water for development, is just wondering, as we do the water mains, to quantify the potential efficiencies found there. You know what I mean? Like if there's a leak, or if there's 5 leaks and there's small, say that's X, you know, X number of liters, or maybe a cubic meter or something like that. And then when the project's done, to quantify the savings, and then, you know, bring that back and say, well, here's how we found water to release into development. It's just an idea as we go through all these things, but just from the chair, just from here.
The question.
Was it comment a question? Is that something like you can comment on, or you know, it was like, is that reasonable or possible, or not, or it's just me talking?
Thank you for the comment. Through the chair, staff have already developed that procedure. So we constantly look at the total transfer data that comes over from the two systems, and then we compare that to the consumption data that we have for the utility network, and then pre and post project we'll do a comparison on what that looks like, and we'll try and quantify any non-visible leaks that may have been in the area, and we will do the follow-up.
Awesome. That's exactly what I was wanting to do. And you do it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Love it. Okay, that's it for me. Would somebody like to read the recommendation for us?
I'll move that the phase one Main Street water main improvement and construction contract be awarded to Napkin Industries Limited based on the submitted price of $342,380 plus applicable GST. And that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the contract.
Second by Councillor Thomas, or?
You already said it. Reelected.
That's it, we're locked in now. All in favor? None opposed, motion carried. Okay, no bylaws, no unfinished business. Business initiated by council members. Any council members have external committee appointments?
Yes, on the March 27th, each committee met and we had applications so that we can.
Excellent. Good. No other external appointments, committees, reports?
Oh, yeah. It was in our consent agenda tonight, but the Public Arts Advisory Committee came to a decision on the awarding the Rural Public Art to one day creates. I'd encourage council members to have a look at the mural. I think we've probably almost been a 1.5 year process in going out to search for artists, to adjudicate artists. And then we had a second round and final round of final designs. And I think we came up with a great choice and look forward to that project going ahead. Hopefully over the next few months, see a mural in the basketball courts and pickleball. Still in in progress as well, there are 2 sidewalk crossing projects that were chosen previous to this, and we've had to once we got to the point where we put them on the ground, street conditions and different things came into play, and we've had to move those a couple of times. So we have a rainbow crossing and a reconciliation site crosswalk coming to Tofino, of course, the next few months as well. So coming to fruition for this work.
You know what? I have a committee appointment that I never actually talk about, but it's come out, and that's it has to do with the iced tea, which is Island Coastal Economic Trust and the North Island Sunshine Coast Regional Committee. And the reason I don't actually get to bring it up is because those are all closed meetings, and they deal with evaluating projects and making recommendations for funding for grant projects. And I realized the sad part is that by those projects go to the board for approval and then get funded, they're long past and council never gets to hear about them. And so I've asked the ICT leadership to start sending some of those completed projects to staff and to get them out so that the community of Tofino surrounding communities could see what ICT has been doing and committee's been working on their behalf. So that's a comment for me. That's it. Question period. Ms. Hepner.
Thank you, Mayor Law. I will now make an open call for questions to both members of the public present in the gallery and those participating online. For those in the gallery who wish to speak, please raise your hand. If there's anyone attending online via Zoom that would like to ask a question, you can do so now. Before asking a question, you will need to state your name, your address, and the agenda item here. I will now do a call. Calling once, calling twice, 3 times. There are no comments at this time, Mayor Law.
Super, thank you, Senator. Then would a councillor like to move us into the closed? Councillor Sawyer.
I move that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91A, C, K, and 92B, 1, 2, and 3 of the community charter to discuss matters relating to 91A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. 91C, labor relations or other employee relations. 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting to the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of the council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. 92B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations. 1, between the municipality and provincial government or the federal government or both, or between provincial government or the federal government or both and a third party. 2, between the municipality and another local government or between another local government and a third party. 3, between the municipality and a First Nation or prescribed Indigenous entity or between a First Nation or prescribed Indigenous entity and a third party.
Seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, one is carried. We'll take a couple minutes.